Hi, I'm Rain, and welcome back to another episode of Destiny Lorepedia. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a very complex and complicated language within Destiny, that language being what I simply call it, the Hive language. As you might know, the Hive sound like they make some kind of gibberish noise, and have these death screams or shouts when killed. It's quite interesting if you ask me, so let's get into it. Before I head into this topic, I'd like to add that some images or video may not be the best quality on specific screens, depending on where you are watching this video from. I do my very best to find the best quality images to provide for these videos, but sometimes when needing to explain information or a concept, certain images are a lower quality than I anticipate. Also, I would like to add a fair warning that today's video is not for the faint of heart, and I say this because today's topic is going to be extremely confusing. I will do my best to break every single little piece down, whether you are a Destiny veteran or have little to no clue about the Destiny universe. If you enjoy this kind of content, consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. It's absolutely free and it helps a ton. The information that I am using as a reference today is linked in the description below. I'll be adding some of my own thoughts or reactions throughout this video as well, so keep an open mind. I like to add that with this reference and adding my own thoughts, speculations, and theories, this subject is a bit more argumentative, and some things mentioned in today's episode may not have a lot of evidence. I do however feel that the Destiny universe really doesn't get to speculate or discuss theories or complex ideas all that often, so this will definitely be up for discussions moving forward. So, with an open mind, let's finally get into it. The Hive language. Hive runes. What's the similarity? Well, these Hive symbols are quite literally the language of the Hive. These symbols are put on these Hive runes as a way to insert spells or perform rituals. From our Guardian's Ghost scanning a Hive rune, he states, Hive runes draw their power from a different dimension, where there's no difference between a word and its meaning. When the Hive erode the barrier between our dimension and theirs, the rune for death brings literal death. This concept we hear from Ghost gives the basis of a rune that says death will literally just bring death. This could add speculation that if there is a rune for life, that such rune would literally just bring life. This enforces the fact that there is indeed no difference between the word and its meaning. When it comes to the Hive runes drawing their power from another dimension, however, this dimension could very well be the Ascendant Plane, which is a fancy saying for another dimension in the Destiny universe. However, because there are so many Ascendant Planes, there is no definite answer of where this would be. The Hive writing system is comprised of runes, which can be compared to early ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. This is considered to be a logographic system, which in short means that each rune represents a specific idea. For example, the door rune is used as a lock for ritualistic doors, such as the door to the Temple of Crota. In total, the language of the Hive encompasses 35 glyphs. The breakdown of this is 18 character glyphs, 3 Court of Oryx runes, 4 interlocal ritual runes, 1 from the Black Hammer runestone, in which the other 2 runes on the runestone are part of the aforementioned character glyphs, 4 newly discovered runes on the cover of For Every Rose of Thorn lore book, 2 of which are a new type of rune, and 5 linear glyphs, which could be the Hive's version of numbers. The term alphabet is used very loosely here because there isn't really a specific order for the glyphs, which in short means that the Hive don't really have an actual alphabet. This comes to 23 base glyphs total that are commonly used by the Hive. These base glyphs were first independently found on Oryx's Dreadnought and the Moon on various consoles. Each dial on the console was a row of the sigil. For example, in the Hole Breach on the Dreadnought, as seen above, there is a console used to summon Hive with the Wormsinger rune. This console has the 5th, 1st, 3rd, and 4th row of the sigil. There is another console in the Asylum, which is used with the Agonarch rune. This one has the 5th, 1st, second, and third row of the sigil. If you put the two together, you get the alphabet sigil present in Destiny 2. The base glyphs are used on a variety of things, including shriekers, Hadium flake chests on the dreadnought, and tomb husks. In the picture I have on the screen, these are the 23 base glyphs in the Hive language. One thing I would like to point out is the very bottom row. As you can see on the far left of the bottom row, it's quite literally a horizontal line, and to the right is the same horizontal line with one dot to the right. This continues until we reach the end of this row, in which we have the horizontal line with a smaller vertical line on the right side. My theory regarding this row is that the horizontal line are all these numbers, and the first one, with just the horizontal line, has a value of 1. The horizontal line with the smaller vertical line on the right side has a value of 5. As such, the horizontal line with 3 dots to the right side would be a value of 4. You would count the horizontal line first, then each respective dot after. Each vertical line would signal 4 dots, which makes this system eerily similar to the system of tally marks. This adds to the next theory that I will now be discussing. As such, this bottom row only has 5 sigils that are practically the same, but of course are different. Think of my theory of each sigil representing a number, with the far left being a value of 1, and the far right being a value of 5. My other theory adding on is that the number values is that we can actually use this knowledge to write out numbers beyond the value of 5. Let me explain this really quick. When looking at the sigil that represents the value of 5, if we were to add 1 dot to the right side of the vertical line, this would then be a value of 6. If we were to add 2 dots to the right side of the vertical line, this would then be a value of 7. However, this would mean that adding 3 dots to the right side of the vertical line would be a value of 8, and the same logic would apply to the value of 9. This would defeat the sigil purpose of the horizontal line with 1, 2, or 3 dots. Of course, the Hive language is complex and is different from other languages, so there can be exceptions, as we also have exceptions with the English language. This would mean that the horizontal line with 2 vertical lines on the right side would be a value of 10, with the first vertical line being the only one with a value of 4, and each vertical line after being a value of 5. Alright, enough about numbers. Let's talk about the Court of Oryx runes. Being independent of the alphabet sigil, there are 3 runes in the Court of Oryx. These runes are only present on Oryx's dreadnought in the Court of Oryx area, the Hall of Souls to be specific. These runes are used to summon various Ascendant Hive, which in short are members of Oryx's High War. There are 3 different tiers to the Court of Oryx, which is represented by each rune: Reciprocal, Stolen, and Antiquated, as pictured above. To make the Hive language even more complex, some of these runes can be mashed together. In short, the different singular runes take 2 of these and merge it into 1 rune. For example, using this chart pictured above, these are actually the Court of Oryx runes that are variously mixed together. Looking at the sigil to the left, this sigil represents both the Stolen and Antiquated runes. The sigil on the far right represents all 3 Court of Oryx runes: Stolen, Antiquated, and Reciprocal. Now, taking this knowledge, which can still be quite confusing at this point, looking at this image is the interlopal ritual located in the Hall of Souls. Looking at each of the arrows pointing towards each specific sigil that is part of the ritual, it gives us a rundown of what 2 runes are used to make such specific sigil. However, this chart doesn't really show us the proper merging of the respective runes, so this really isn't the best example. This, however, still gets the point across in regards to runes having the capability to merge. In a way, think of it as making a whole word. Like for the word the, we spell it T-H-E. This merging of runes has the same concept, but it's just more complex. For the cover of the lore book, called For Every Rose a Thorn, there are new Hive runes. While there are the same style as the runes in the Court of Oryx, this introduces us to a new concept of the Hive language, half runes. So these new runes, that we call half runes, are pictured above. According to scattered lore and information, the Shadows of Yore possibly discovered these new runes as they translated the Hive tomb that was on Dredge and Yore's ship. What's interesting is that even though the Hive language is the same throughout Destiny 1 and 2, the general use of the language is used a bit differently. For example, Oryx was more practical and orderly when it came to the placement and order of these runes, while his cunning sister Savathûn would be more chaotic and unruly of this language. The majority of the Hive runes uncovered were originally discovered on Luna, also known as the Moon, and Oryx's Dreadnought. The structure and use of the runes are very rigid, suggesting uniformity in purpose. This could be a reflection of Oryx, as he prided himself on having order in his family. This is also evident in the King's Fall raid, during the War Priest and Gogorth encounters, as the Hive tablets that are used are structured in a grid-like fashion. As such, in the Court of Oryx, the Court of Oryx runes and their use in the interlopal ritual show the additive nature of the court and are a reflection of Oryx's decree upon creating the court. From the High War Grimoire card, Oryx's decree is as quote, "I shall establish a court, and whoever comes into this court may challenge me. My court will be the Hive War. It will be a killing ground in a school of the sword logic we have learned from our gods." All of this evidence supports the idea of Oryx being more orderly and practical with the Hive language. Going into Savathûn territory now, the use of Hive runes on Titan is much different than seen on the Dreadnought. As we know, Savathûn is the god of cunning, which in short is lies and betrayal. Using this knowledge with support from the Savathûn song strike, which no longer exists, her way of using the Hive language could be her way of being her cunning self, by bending the rules and use of the Hive language. This adds into the speculation that this was her attempt at breaking the tribute system, or the way her worm familiar would be fed, and instead use a new system called Imbaru, where every failure to understand her makes her more powerful, resulting in her worm familiar being fed. Diving into the Warmind DLC for a second, we know Nokris, who was a herald of Zol, one of the worm gods. Also known as the heretic son of Oryx, the runes on his robes are not a part of the alphabet, but instead look very archaic and look similar to the runes seen on the Cathedral of Dusk Crucible map in Destiny 1. This goes into a theory that perhaps this was a way of indirectly showing us of how Oryx communicated with the Deep itself, as the Cathedral of Dusk was deep inside the Dreadnought, and Nokris had also communed with the Deep to make his pact with Zol. The symbol on the top of the tablet stands for Jewel, and this same symbol is seen on numerous banners and flags throughout the Dreadnought. This adds speculation that this symbol is significant to Oryx and the Hive. Alright, enough looking at these different runes and sigils. Now we need to discuss about the actual speech in regards to the Hive language. Unfortunately, there isn't really any clear information regarding the speech of the Hive and their language. However, we have a quote from the Journal of Toland, which quotes, "What may seem like a void between their shrieks holds in what I believe to be yet another clue to their origins. In one tone the Hive plead to their gods, but in the next they whisper to another. Perhaps it is here which holds the answer to their ultimate demise, or a bridge to their desires. In my studies, I still struggle to match the tones to their rune system." Now, because of the extreme complexity and the small amount of translating information regarding the Hive language, there are only very few words actually translated in terms of speech. Here's what we have translated so far, or at least to my own personal knowledge. Malak means my poison, for Malak, the pride of Oryx. Lokar means not there, per Lokar himself. Vorlog means less than me, per Vorlog himself. Oryx means long thought, per the 10 Immortals Grimoire card. And Ayat means an expression that is a question and its own answer, per a quote from Seth Dickinson. The only real way that we could get more translations is if Ascendant Hive come forward and are willing to speak, in order to help us understand their language. Perhaps a Hive translator similar to the idea of Oryx, who translate the language for the Fallen. Yes, there is an actual language for the Fallen as well. And without that further ado, that concludes today's episode of Destiny Lorepedia. If you enjoyed today's video, consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as it's absolutely free and helps out a ton. Leave a comment down below your own thoughts or theories regarding the Hive language, as well as any questions you may have regarding what was discussed in today's video. See you in the next one!